What the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But I want you to stop and reflect for a moment. If that's true, why, at 40 or older, do most people feel their lives are spiraling out of control? Why do many believe it's too late to change course? Perhaps this is the greatest contradiction of your life, and today we'll break that myth together. At 40, many look back and feel the weight of having raced through life without pausing to consider where they were truly headed. Have you ever felt constantly busy, yet deep down wondered, was all this for nothing? What's the direction of my life now? This is a more common thought than you might realize, and it's precisely why Napoleon Hill asserted that the biggest barrier between a person and success isn't a lack of resources, but a lack of a clearly defined goal. Think about it. How many times have you started something without clarity, exhausted yourself, and ended up feeling like you were spinning your wheels? This doesn't happen because you're incapable, but because your mind wasn't programmed to pursue something specific. Hill believed this so strongly that he accepted a challenge from Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest men of his time. Carnegie asked him to interview over 500 millionaires to discover if there was a common thread among them. Do you know what he found? They all had crystal-clear goals. It didn't matter if they were building a factory, leading an empire, or starting from scratch. They all knew precisely where they wanted to go. And this is where the reality check comes in. If such diverse individuals achieved extraordinary results because of their clarity, what prevents us from doing the same now, even at 40, 50, or 60? What you need to do today isn't to wait for the perfect moment, isn't to wait to accumulate more money or have fewer responsibilities. What you need is to write in a single, simple sentence what you truly want to achieve from this point forward. Not something vague like, I want to be happy or I want to have money, but something like, I want to pay off all my debts in 2 years, or I want to open my own business by the end of next year, or even I want to spend more quality time with my family. Do you see how this changes everything? Because when the mind has clarity, the body finds a way. And I know you might be thinking, but is it still possible for me? That's the question that paralyzes most people over 40. The truth is, most people wake up to this realization far too late. But if you're hearing this now, it means you still have plenty of time to realign your course. It's like driving down the wrong road. The longer you continue without realizing it, the farther you get from your destination. But all it takes is recognition and a turn of the wheel to start correcting your direction. Therefore, I want you to make a commitment to yourself today. Write that goal statement on a piece of paper and place it somewhere visible. Read it aloud every day. Does it seem too simple? That's precisely the simplicity that transforms the mind. When you repeat it, your brain begins to believe, and when it believes, it starts to act differently. This isn't magic, it's psychology. In fact, modern research shows that those who set clear goals are up to 42% more likely to achieve them than those who merely hold desires in their heads. And if you think writing a single sentence holds no power, remember what happened to Napoleon Hill himself. Before he gained recognition, he was just a young man from the countryside without money or connections. The clarity of the goal set by Carnegie was what propelled him from obscurity to become one of the greatest figures in personal development of all time. This true story proves that when you have clarity, you find the courage to persevere even when the path seems impossible. So tell me, haven't you spent too many years chasing what others expected of you? Isn't it time to finally chase what truly matters to you? How many sleepless nights have you spent worrying about debts, seemingly endless bills, or the fear of not being able to support your family in the future? The truth is, after 40, this weight becomes even heavier because many people feel there's no room for error. But what almost no one realizes is that behind the problem of money, there's an even deeper problem: the lack of control over emotions. Napoleon Hill always said that money is merely a reflection of what happens within us. If you don't control your fears, anxieties, and your way of reacting, no matter how much you earn, it will always slip through your fingers. And don't think this only happens to those who have little. Great fortunes have been lost by people who couldn't control their own emotions. Want a striking example? Mike Tyson, one of the greatest boxers in history, earned hundreds of millions of dollars throughout his career. But his inability to manage impulses, addictions, and emotional instability caused him to lose almost everything. This shows that the problem isn't the size of your income, but how well you're able to govern yourself. Now, look at your life. How many times have you spent money on something just to alleviate a fleeting emotion? An impulse buy, a trip to forget your problems, an expensive dinner to compensate for a bad day at work. This cycle seems harmless, but it's precisely what traps most people in debt and frustration. Research shows that more than 70% of marital arguments are linked to money, but deep down, it's not the money itself, but the emotions each person invests in it. It's the fear of the future, the anxiety for security, the need to prove something to others. Hill suggested something practical and powerful: creating an emotional budget. It works like this. Every time a worry about money arises, instead of letting it swirl in your mind, you take a notebook and write down exactly what you're feeling and why. This act alone reduces anxiety by half because it transforms an invisible monster into something you can look at directly. Then analyze. Is this a real problem, or is it just projected fear? Many times you'll realize it's nothing more than unfounded worry. Another essential point is to create a simple plan to deal with debt. Even if it's a small amount per month, the feeling of moving in the right direction completely changes your energy. It's like taking a stone out of your shoe. The path may be long, but it's no longer as painful. And this generates confidence, generates clarity, and above all, generates peace of mind. Napoleon Hill learned this firsthand. During the Great Depression, thousands of people were desperate, without money, without jobs, and without hope. Hill almost gave up on everything, but he was invited to advise President Roosevelt. And it was at that moment that he helped create one of the most memorable phrases in American history: "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Notice, it wasn't just about politics or economics, it was about emotions, because when fear reigns, not even the largest amount of money in the world brings security. So think with me, is the problem in your financial life really the lack of money, or is it how you react to it? Isn't it time to learn to control what you feel so that money becomes an ally and not an enemy? If you start today to observe your emotions and create this emotional budget, you will notice something incredible. Money ceases to be a ghost and becomes merely a tool. And when that happens, you achieve something far more valuable than wealth. You achieve peace. Look at the people closest to you today. Do they inspire you to grow, or do they pull you down with criticism, negativity, and lack of vision? At 40, many realize that their environment has been shaping itself over the years without them noticing. And now they find themselves surrounded by voices repeating phrases like, "That won't work, you're too old for that, if it were going to happen, it would have already happened." And that's precisely where the danger lies. Because, as Napoleon Hill said, you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. This isn't just a nice phrase. It's a reality that silently shapes every thought and every decision. Think how many times you've had a good idea, a desire to start over, but upon sharing it with someone close, you only receive discouragement. How many dreams die like that, not because they were impossible, but because they were suffocated by the wrong environment. Science has already shown that the environment influences even our brain chemistry. Psychological studies prove that associating with optimistic people increases levels of dopamine and serotonin, substances linked to well-being and motivation. The opposite is also true. Associating with toxic people increases cortisol, the stress hormone, and this makes you believe that you're truly incapable. Napoleon Hill studied hundreds of millionaires and realized that they all had something in common. They chose very carefully who was by their side. He called this a mastermind, a small group of people who share the same goals and strengthen each other. Want a practical example? Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone, and even Luther Burbank, one of history's greatest botanists, met regularly to exchange ideas, support each other, and expand their vision. This powerful circle of friendships wasn't a coincidence. It was strategy. Now pause and look at your circle. How many of these people truly help you move forward? How many motivate you to continue when you think about giving up? And how many only know how to complain, criticize, and instill fear? At 40, this filter becomes even more urgent because each choice of company can define whether you'll use the next years to grow or to remain stuck in the same place. I'm not saying you should abandon everyone at once, but to start becoming aware. Reduce your time with those who only bring weight and increase your time with those who strengthen you. And if you think, but I don't have people like that around me, remember that today, with the internet, you can connect with groups, communities, and mentors who share the same energy you desire. Sometimes one right friendship is worth more than 10 years of effort alone. And here's a pattern break for you to reflect on. Have you noticed how even streaming apps recommend things similar to what you've already watched? If you watch a sad series, in a short time, your screen is full of more sad options. Life works the same way. The more you associate with negative people, the more your mind only sees pessimism. But if you start surrounding yourself with people with vision and courage, suddenly the world seems full of possibilities you hadn't even noticed before. Therefore, the question remains, is the environment you're in today compatible with the dreams you still want to achieve? If not, maybe it's not you who needs to change, but the circle that surrounds you. After 40, one of the biggest blocks many people face is fear. Fear of failure, fear of starting over, fear of the judgment of others, fear of not having enough time to achieve what they still desire. And it's curious, because the more time passes, the more these fears seem to grow. But Napoleon Hill discovered something powerful when studying the lives of thousands of people. Fear is an illusion that costs too much. He said that it's precisely this emotion that most paralyzes dreams, and that when we give power to fear, it transforms into the greatest thief of opportunities. Think how many times you've stopped trying something because you imagined the worst-case scenarios. You might have considered a career change, but then that inner voice whispers, "What if it doesn't work out? What if I fail?" Perhaps you dreamt of starting a business, but gave up because of the fear of ridicule or criticism. Often these fears lack a solid foundation, yet the mere act of imagining them drains your energy and prevents you from taking that crucial first step. Hill suggested a simple, transformative exercise. Write down your fears. It might sound silly, but when you list your 3 biggest fears, they cease being invisible monsters in your mind and become tangible things you can confront. And with clarity, you realize many are just assumptions. For example, is losing money on a new project truly devastating, or is it just an exaggerated idea your mind has fueled? Is hearing criticism really the end of the world, or just another opinion that doesn't define you? This leads to a remarkable point in Hill's life. In 1933, during the depths of the Great Depression, the United States was in chaos. Millions were unemployed and despairing, gripped by collective fear. Franklin Roosevelt, newly inaugurated president, asked Hill to help craft speeches that would restore confidence. It was during this period that the enduring phrase was born, "The only thing we have to fear is fear itself." Hill knew from first-hand experience that when fear reigns, even the most talented and intelligent individuals become paralyzed. Now, think about yourself. How many opportunities have you missed because of fear? How many years of your life have been guided not by your desire to grow, but by the attempt to avoid criticism, failure, and risk? Isn't it time to turn the game around? Fear can persist, but you can use it as fuel. How? Choose one of those fears you wrote down and take a small step against it this week. It doesn't have to be grand. A single movement is enough. If you fear rejection, make that long-delayed phone call. If you fear starting a business, take the first step in researching it. If you fear learning something new, sign up for a trial class. When you confront your fears, even minimally, you'll see them shrink. And each time you face them, your self-confidence grows. This process isn't just motivational, it's proven. Psychological studies show the brain forms new connections every time we overcome an emotional barrier. Facing your fears not only changes your outcomes, but literally reprograms your mind. So the question is, will you continue letting fear dictate the rhythm of your life? Or will you choose to confront it and transform it into your greatest fuel? Have you noticed how easy it is to start something with energy and stop halfway? It could be a diet, a course, a savings plan, or even a personal project. Initially, there's enthusiasm, but after a few days or weeks, motivation fades and everything reverts to the status quo. Napoleon Hill was very clear about this. Discipline separates those who achieve from those who only dream. The detail few understand is that discipline doesn't rely on willpower, because willpower is like a muscle that tires. The secret lies in habits, because habits are invisible, automatic, and, when well built, become stronger than any excuse. Hill said great achievers weren't the smartest or most talented, but those who consistently maintained small actions every day, even when unmotivated. This is because habits create pathways in the brain. The more you repeat them, the easier they become, until one day you do them without even realizing it. It's like brushing your teeth. Nobody needs motivation for that because it's ingrained. Now imagine, what if you could program your mind to act automatically towards your goal instead of relying on bursts of motivation? This is possible when you choose micro-habits. Instead of trying to change everything at once, choose something so small that failure is impossible. Reading a page of a book a day, walking for 5 minutes, saving $10 a week. It seems insignificant, but it's this smallness that creates consistency, and consistency over time becomes transformation. A powerful example is Oprah Winfrey's story. From a young age, she practiced what she learned from Napoleon Hill's books. She visualized her desired future daily. This simple habit, repeated daily, shaped her mentality, transforming a young woman from humble beginnings into one of the most influential women in the world. She didn't get there suddenly, but through consistent micro-actions, accumulating over years. And science confirms this. Neuroscience studies show repeating a habit for about 66 days is enough to make it automatic. It's not about infinite motivation. It's about getting through those first days until your mind starts working in your favor. Imagine the power you'd have if, instead of battling yourself daily, you could rely on habits that propel you effortlessly. What's missing for many is a reward system. Small celebrations when you stick to a habit release dopamine, reinforcing the desire to continue. It could be as simple as marking the day on a calendar, giving yourself a small gift at the end of the week, or sharing your progress with someone you trust. The key is to train your brain to associate discipline with pleasure, not sacrifice. So tell me, how many times have you sabotaged yourself believing you needed motivation to change? What if, in reality, all you need is to start small and repeat until it becomes automatic? This invisible discipline builds great results, because in the end, it's not the grand gestures that change your life, but the small actions you repeat daily, even when nobody's watching. Napoleon Hill said the greatest enemy of success isn't a lack of talent or opportunity, but indecision and inaction. The human mind naturally procrastinates, waits for the perfect moment, imagines tomorrow will be easier, but tomorrow brings nothing different if you don't do something today. Hill faced countless difficulties, lived in poverty, saw his projects rejected repeatedly, but never stopped acting. He believed each small step toward a goal created momentum that, compounded over time, transformed into extraordinary results. And here's the crucial point. You already possess everything you need to change your life, but nothing happens until you commit to acting. It's not about waiting to feel motivated, having all the answers, or knowing the entire path before starting. It's about taking the first step, however small, and repeating it. That's the true power of action. I challenge you now. Choose just one idea you heard here, just one, and commit to practicing it daily for the next 7 days. It could be writing your goal on paper early in the morning, visualizing your desired future for 5 minutes, or saving a symbolic amount daily. The size of the gesture doesn't matter. Consistency does. If you keep this simple commitment, you'll feel the difference in a week. Extend it to 30 days, and you'll realize discipline has become habit, and your mind has started working for you. Don't wait for perfect conditions because they'll never exist. Perfection is a paralyzing illusion. Life changes when you decide to act with what you have, where you are, and who you are today. Every step, however small, builds a solid foundation for the next. So the question remains, will you continue consuming ideas and waiting for the right moment, or will you take control and prove to yourself you can transform your reality? Time will pass anyway, but what you do with it defines who you become. The power of action, combined with clarity, discipline, and emotional control. It all begins with a conscious decision to take responsibility for your life, to take the first step and persist, even when fear or doubt try to paralyze you. Each small action you repeat daily builds a solid foundation for real and lasting change, transforming dreams into concrete results. And now, on screen, you can already see the next video I've prepared for you. In it, we'll climb another step in your wisdom evolution, exploring strategies that can make you at least 1% better than you are today. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you in the next video to continue this journey of transformation together.